February 20th, 2026 is a very important day that is the beginning of the change of global consciousness. We're already seeing a lot of things happening. Usually it's when they say Saturn, which is Obalawai, and Olokun, which is Neptune, come together. And in this one is a very special one. The last time we had it was when the Soviet Union collapsed, the coming down of the Berlin Wall. We can already see what's going on in the world, and most likely we might actually witness the end of NATO. It's all civilizational. There are 4 civilizations in the world. We have the Western civilization, the white Christian. We have the Afro-Asiatic civilization, the Islamic civilization. We have the Buddhist civilization of India and China. And the 4th one is the Indigenous African civilization. We started with Ifa, and the source is Nigeria. Now, because of the way things are going, we can see with President Trump's recent foreign policy about civilizational realism and civilizational erasure. The question or the problem being faced now is that the Western civilization sees China and India competing very well economically, politically, and militarily. And so they're trying to stop it. Now, what some in the way Western civilization sees that they should get rid of the North Atlantic Treaty, which is more like a tribal rivalry between Western Europe and the Russians. And they should come together as one to challenge China and India, whose population is quite great and are growing. But that left apart, there is the African civilization, Indigenous African civilization, which has faced a lot of civilizational erasure by the Abrahamists. The Abrahamic dogma behind the Western civilization and the Afro-Asiatic civilization has refused to identify that Africans had a civilization, and that these tribes, which they exacerbated, were actually linked culturally, genetically, philosophically, and culturally. But they have refused to give us that. And if you look at President Trump's foreign policy, they all view us as a mere resource center where the people don't matter. Now, the problem is this: what is the Indigenous African civilization going to do? The core of it is Yoruba land. And when the Europeans came in, they used Oyo, which was one of the city-states, and spread one of its dialects to encompass what became Yoruba. The most important thing was that they upset the whole civilization, whereby Oyo now challenged Ife as the source of the Indigenous African civilization. Now we've seen what's happened. Initially, because what happened with the Oyo civilization was that after it was destroyed in 1835, in 1837, the Africans created another Oyo where they made that only Muslims could be Alaafins. And from there, the British supported the Ibadans, who opposed Ijaye, that wanted to stick to traditions. So from Bishop Ajayi Crowther, who was the one who wrote different languages, who wrote both Yoruba and Igbo, the Yoruba dictionary and the Yoruba Bible. and the Igbo dictionary, using different rules to make the two large groups appear to be far more different. And within Yoruba, we have this Oyo problem. But as we can see, as other civilizations are having to regroup, so was the enthronement of the new Alaafin. I'd said at the point when the old Alaafin, the Alaafin Lamidi Adeyemi, when he died, and I calculated it, and it was exactly 165 years of the Atiba civilization. So we knew that the civilization was, the dynasty, we knew that the dynasty had come to an end. So with Alaafin Owade being chosen by Ifa, it was a welcome development. But we now realize that what Ifa did was actually to show the fallacies that the Oyo Kingdom, the Oyo Empire, had taken to erase our traditions. There was a time when Oni of Ife tried to unite Yoruba and Igbo, and the Alaafin said he did not recognize that there was a civilization among us, and the only civilization that he recognized was the Afro-Asiatic civilization and the British, the Western civilization. But he did not believe there were any cultural, genetic, and the philosophical linkages between Yorubas and Igbos, whereas we share the same template, the same Ifa template, the same knowledge bank. So now with all that coming to place, we will see that most likely we will be pushed to act. The Indigenous African civilization, the core of it is South and Middle Belt. And until they unite and unite the rest of the Indigenous African civilization that spread to South Africa, we will continue to be resource centers. And if we're not careful, with the Afro-Asiatic civilization and Western civilization, they will divide us. So what we need is people like Oni of Ife to continuously make it clear to all and all those who will listen that we have a civilization as a Black people, and the new world order that's going to come now, what we call the age of Aquarius, is that we're not going to have superpowers where America is going to be the only leading country, or a bi-superpower arrangement between two countries. No, what we're going to have is each civilization will develop its own civilizational goods and will trade. And that's what we call the multipolar world order, which, quite frankly, the Chinese in the GCI, the Global Civilization Initiative, pushes that every civilization should stand on its own and be respected. But the West does not. The West, through the Abrahamic dogma, pushes what we call the global white supremacy. And that global white supremacy finds we Black people at the end of it, because you have the Europeans at the top, you have Asians in the middle, the Arabs in the middle, and the Black man at the bottom. But we can't just complain. We have to articulate and unite our civilization. South and Middle Belt civilization, which spreads all the way down to South Africa and East Africa. And that's what we're going to be seeing from February 20, which also is the 7th birthday of Ashe Foundation, African Sociocultural Harmony and Enlightenment Foundation, which Oni of Ife, Oyobi of Onisha, the Amanyamo of Okbobo, the Akuka of Ukari, and the Atalvigala are the trustees. And we're going to be exactly 7 years. So, and this was what we were created to do, to unify the Indigenous African civilization. And we hope that we will start seeing people's consciousness change, people realizing where they're from, pride, which can improve our work ethic, our economics, our politics. And we do need to understand our civilizational reality and prevent civilizational erasure.